We'd like to thank Mainspring Companies for sponsoring Season 1 of The Next Entrepreneur. Mainspring celebrates the entrepreneurial journey, and we are very grateful for their support.
When I first started to think about doing RallyCap sports, or at least starting at a Bowling Green, I came out to New Jersey to see what was going on here. And you just don't get it until you do it for the first time as a volunteer, especially with kids with special needs. You just don't get it until you're given a high five to one of these kids. And when you do, there's nothing better than it. And it makes you feel so good, and it makes everybody feel so good. And so, initially our whole focus is, we want to impact more people with special needs, give them sports. And then we realized down the road here a few years that, yes, we're having a great impact on that, and we're so proud of that. But there's this whole other mission that started to develop on its own, which is, help people, students, college students mainly, learn about the special needs community.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Next Entrepreneur. We are here today with Mr. Luke Sims, Executive Director of RallyCap Sports, a nonprofit that provides sports for kids with special needs. Yeah. Luke, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, Andrew. Good to see you again.
I feel like we're good friends now.
Yeah.
So we recently recorded an episode with Mr. Paul Hooker, the former CEO and chairman of the board of Sephora, the luxury linen company. And RallyCap Sports, well, I guess that's a new name for your nonprofit.
That's right.
But the precursor to that is something that was started 29 years ago.
That's right.
He told us the story of That Stinks.
That's right.
So for our listeners who may have missed that episode,
sure,
would you mind giving us a quick rundown on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So 29 years ago in Lincroft, New Jersey, Paul and Margot Hooker were at a baseball game with their kids. Their kids have no special needs. They're playing baseball. Paul walks up to a little girl named Nicole Bonchilati, and Nicole is sitting in a wheelchair, and she's watching her brothers play baseball, and he says, "How are you doing, Nicole?" And she looks up at him and says, "This stinks." And she was blunt about it. And Paul says, "Why does this stink?" And, "Well, my brothers are out there playing baseball, and I can't." And, how Paul tells the story is he thinks to himself, and this is 30 years ago, there wasn't really that many things for people with special needs. He thought to himself, well, you're in a wheelchair, you can't play baseball like everybody else. But then he stopped himself and he looked down at Nicole and said, well, of course you should be able to play sports like your brothers. And so that's the genesis of how RallyCap Sports got started, then called Challenge Youth Sports. So Paul got Nicole and about 8 of her friends with various special needs around, and they started their own separate division of Lincroft Little League called the Challenger Division. And they went through a baseball season. At the end of the season, everybody looked at Paul and Margot and said, "What's next?" And they weren't ready for that. They weren't planning on some, huge sports recreational league or anything like that. They thought just baseball. Well, 25 years later, now 29 years later, they have sports year-round in New Jersey. And so it grew from there, and it impacts about 300 families per year at that first chapter in Middletown, New Jersey.
And so the kids are playing what? They started in softball?
They started in softball, and in what we call our home chapter, they do yoga, basketball, softball, flag football, soccer, dancercise, beach volleyball, which is going on right now on the beach in Bradley Beach. It's beautiful. They do bowling, cheerleading, just about everything you can think of. They're doing at this chapter here in New Jersey, and they've added throughout the years.
Now, this is for a segment of the population that's not able to be on a a regular
Right.
intramural league. These are children with special needs. These are children with spina bifida, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome.
Yep, all
on and
across the board.
all across.
Anybody that can't participate in their own recreational league, they were turned away for whatever reason or couldn't keep up. These are the kids that we're working with.
So, Luke, our podcast is about the entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
And, along with that, with the traditional definition of entrepreneurism, we are including stories from social entrepreneurs. And that's the reason why we're talking to you today. And, back to Paul, he seems to be like perfectly divided down the middle of a traditional entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And I know that many successful entrepreneurs have a social aspect of it. What he has been able to do, and now through you as the executive director of RallyCap Sports, I mean, it's just truly impressive. So I wanted to dial it back a little bit and, start the story of how you got into this and where you met Paul and how did that all start?
Yeah, so I'll jump right back into the story. So he met Nicole. They started a sports program called Challenge You Sports all the way up until about 5 years ago when I first met Paul. There was just that one chapter of what was called Challenge You Sports, doing all the sports, serving lots of kids in New Jersey. I met Paul at his alma mater and my alma mater, Bowling Green State University. I was a junior at BGSU studying business marketing at the time at a networking event, meeting prominent alum. Paul's a prominent alum. And Paul was telling me about this nonprofit that he had started, Challenge You Sports, and about how he'd like to see it grow and impact more lives. And he was trying to, find a way to expand it. And so I pitched him the idea of taking it to colleges and universities across the country for a couple of main reasons. Number one, because of the facilities that are right there on campus, easily accessible. Lots of facilities to use, the incredible students at universities, especially in a time where it's very trendy to be caring about the world, doing good. Lots of students right now that want to leave an impact on the world. So, I thought, gosh, there's so many students right here on campus. Why not build chapters locally like that? And so he loved the idea. And he said, Luke, why don't you want to start the first expansion chapter at Bowling Green and see how it goes, and maybe it'll fizzle out and nothing will happen, and maybe it'll take off. So
at this time, Paul is living in New Jersey.
Correct.
His business is in New York.
Correct.
And he's going back to Bowling Green because that's his alma mater.
It's his alma mater.
And you're there at college.
That's right.
And then you've made that connection. And so it seems really logical for, hey, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Luke, why don't we do it here in Bowling Green?
Yeah, absolutely. We had the resources ready to go.
And so where are you at that point in your college career?
Yeah, so he gives me an internship between my junior and senior year. I had just come off of a couple of Fortune 500 internships, desk jobs. I was itching for something entrepreneurial, something different. He says, you be an intern this summer, rebrand it if you want to. That's when we changed to RallyCap Sports, redid our logo, redid our website and all of that. Came back in my senior year at BGSU, and that's when we launched our first expansion chapter at BGSU. Had our kickoff event at Bowling Green, and from there it exploded. We were the #1 organization on campus by the end of the year, fastest growing student organization on campus. And at that point, we had other colleges and universities reaching out to us wanting to start their own chapter of RallyCap Sports.
So you're having to reach out to pediatric clinics? Where are you finding the children with special needs? How are you getting the message out to that community?
Yeah, all types of groups that work with people with special needs. So whether it be therapists or whether it be special education teachers at local high schools and elementaries, whether it be even your YMCAs and your really established community leaders in the area, them putting up flyers or them sharing, our information with their population, churches, local churches. to start, we didn't know exactly what we were doing. We were just going to provide something and hope people would come. And we thought there was a need because there seemed to be a need in New Jersey. And we thought, all right, well, maybe there's a need here. And there seemed to be. So then it spread by word of mouth, really. We didn't do a lot of marketing outside of, some stuff through the College of Business and through Bowling Green.
So at this point, as you're starting it, are you in the multiple sport type situation?
So at that point, we started at my senior year, and we had a kickoff event, and our goal was to have one sport in the fall semester and one sport in the spring semester.
Perfect.
And maybe an ending event, which we called the RallyCap wrap-up event. So we had a kickoff, 2 sports, and a wrap-up, and it just went really well. So we added some other things here and there. We did a holiday party. We did, some other fun stuff throughout the year. And then a big piece of RallyCap Sports is we do lots of volunteer stuff. So we had fundraisers. We had fun with it. We had lots of volunteer meetings and getting volunteers involved and passionate about what they were doing.
Okay, so you're a senior. You've got this project going that seems to be just really honorable.
Thanks.
And just curious what your friends were thinking about Luke Sims, their buddy Luke Sims at that point.
Oh, gosh, I don't know if anybody's thinking I'm a hero by any means at that point. I was looking to create a job for myself, and I thought this was an opportunity to do something good with my life, but also match up with, somebody like a Paul Hooker, who I really respected the way that he did stuff and the way he was living his life. And I saw the opportunity of, gosh, if we could make this great, maybe this could turn into a job, and maybe I could really kind of own my own flexible time and, really run this thing the way I wanted to. And here's an opportunity to take something that already had a history that was important, but really help people that I cared about. And, I don't know what my friends were thinking, but
I mean, from the perspective of you're taking initiative, you're starting something new, and you're running with it, and it's so purely entrepreneurial, because you have the responsibility or the right, or whatever the right word is, to take that as far as you want to. And that to me is the definition of entrepreneurship. No one put a cap on how far you could run with this, right?
Yeah, and that's got a lot to do with Paul, because he was the founder, and it had been going for, at that time, 25 years. And there's lots of people that wouldn't hand that over to some junior or senior in college that's drinking beers on every night of the week. And is this kid really going to take on my legacy? And he saw a passion in me, and he saw maybe a little of himself in me, and he thought that I might be the right person to kind of advance this and take the baton and take it forward.
So as your senior year is coming to a close, you were on the path of the big Fortune 500, the corporate environment. How did that begin to change for you? And tell us about that.
So I was headed toward corporate America. I just had a couple of internships, was starting to go in and interview even for some job offers and such. And some of those internships, I'm sitting there, it's 9 to 5, and it just didn't fit who I was. And I had an entrepreneurship minor, and I was meeting all of these people like Paul from the Entrepreneurship Center at BGSU, and thinking, if I could think of a dream scenario, it would be, one of these guys, build a business from scratch and be proud of it and sell it or whatever. And that's all ultimately what I wanted to do, come up with the product, come up with the service. So when I had this opportunity, it kind of filled that interest in me of not wanting a normal day job at a Fortune 500 company where I couldn't really make decisions, and I'd have to put in my time and probably move here and there, and they'd control my life in so many ways. And here's an opportunity to, match up with somebody I loved and respected and do something good that I thought was good and maybe had a lot of potential, but also be good for myself. I had flexibility. I knew that it would give me a chance to kind of live where I wanted to live. It would give me a chance to own my own schedule. It would give me a chance to, have that entrepreneurial journey that maybe Paul talked about,
Right.
of building something from scratch. So it was not an easy decision because you've got, my parents are wonderful parents, and not to say that they were pushing me away from RallyCap Sports, but it's hard to push your son right out of college into something that's a little you don't know what's going to happen, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And
Well, by comparison to the other options that you had through your internships, it certainly may have appeared less stable.
Oh,
or,
without question. Without question.
Or maybe had, or your parents may have perceived there to be less of a path to the top, quote unquote, or whatever. You can understand that, but what box was not being checked, it sounds like from our conversations, was the career satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So how did it work then as you were finishing up your career? Had you made a decision to go down that path with RallyCap Sports? Did you reach out to Paul? Did Paul reach out to you?
So as we got more and more interest throughout my senior year from other colleges and universities, Paul said, we sat down and had a serious conversation about what it might look like to move forward. And he said, go interview with your other companies. Let's see what offers you get. Let's see what's going on. And basically, I had some offers on the table, and in some way, he tried to match what I was maybe going to go make in corporate America, so that I wouldn't miss out on that I didn't feel like that was going to be something that I was going to take a big risk on financially, especially at the start of my life. And so, then we had a serious conversation about moving forward, and he gave me the opportunity to lead things, and he would commit to being a mentor and commit to being the chairman of the board and move things forward. So he hired me, and I started in June of 2015, right after I graduated in May, and moved out, married my high school sweetheart, moved out to New York City, and started building RallyCap Sports.
And so you've been at now, is it 4 years?
4 years.
4 years.
Not counting my internship. Yep.
Right. And where are you at now at the number of chapters?
Yeah, so we're at 18 chapters in 6 states. We just had a great little expansion, and for the most part, 95% of our chapters will start here in the fall semester. I don't know when this will drop, but we've got a big growth coming up this year as well, and we hope to continue growing this year.
Excellent. That sounds great. Luke, let us pause here for a quick second for a message from one of our sponsors. MBD Automation is a proud sponsor for the Next Entrepreneur podcast, and we welcome them to the show. MBD Automation is a mechanical install contractor who installs conveyor systems and automated equipment, VRCs and singulators and sorters and all sorts of equipment that you'll find in e-commerce fulfillment centers, distribution centers, mail processing facilities, airports, and the industrial market, and in the defense industry. MBD Automation works all over the United States and has a list of international clients that they perform work for in the U.S. as well. When you're looking for your next mechanical install contractor, reach out to MBD Automation. They can be found on the internet at mbdautomation.com. And we are back with Luke Sims, the Executive Director with RallyCap Sports, a nonprofit that provides sports for kids with special needs. So, Luke, one thing that really strikes me with RallyCap Sports is not just what you're doing for the children with special needs and their families. I mean, this whole concept of a child belonging to a team, a child with special needs who previously would not have had that experience. And so with my nonprofit experience, I have heard this feedback from families, and I know that it's real, that this is just one of the many things that a child with special needs may miss out on, and that's the thought of belonging to a team.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely huge. It takes this conversation of inclusion to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm.
And this really struck me when I learned this just in the last 6 or 7 months. This concept of a child having a number,
Yeah,
right? A number on their jersey. So we've talked about this when you were a child and I was a child. We remember our teams.
Yeah.
We remember our numbers.
Absolutely.
To this day. We remember the color of our jerseys and how that made you feel. And we remember that the days like this afternoon where you get a thunder shower and you're like, oh no, is my game going to be canceled?
Yeah.
And if it was, you were devastated.
Yeah.
You know, and we'd ride our bikes down to the baseball field to just double check.
Yeah.
You know, in the odd,
Totally.
you know, maybe it didn't rain there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for these kids, I think what you guys are doing at RallyCap is just phenomenal, and I'm just so grateful to have learned more about your nonprofit and have met you in the process.
Oh, thanks for those kind words.
Yeah, man. So but there's something more that's going on there,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what you're also doing in helping the volunteers.
Yeah.
So what I mean by helping the volunteers is providing this opportunity for maybe a college student who maybe previously didn't have any connection with the special needs community. Maybe they're just trying to build some service hours, but then they get in and they see.
Absolutely.
And I just want to see if you can touch on that.
Yeah.
On what you've seen and what these volunteer opportunities mean for the college students.
Yeah. Andrew, so when I first started to think about doing RallyCap sports, or at least starting at a Bowling Green, I came out to New Jersey to see what was going on here. And you just don't get it until you do it for the first time as a volunteer, especially with kids with special needs. You just don't get it until you're given a high five to one of these kids. And when you do, there's nothing better than it. And it makes you feel so good. And it makes everybody feel so good. And so, you know, initially our whole focus is, we want to impact more people with special needs, give them sports. And then we realized down the road here a few years that, yes, we're having a great impact on that, and we're so proud of that. But there's this whole other mission that started to develop on its own, which is, you know, help people, students, college students mainly, learn about the special needs community. Learn about these kids, learn to accept them, learn to make them a part of the community, learn how to love them like any other person. And so, you know, we've got many college kids coming back to us and saying, hey, I started volunteering with RallyCap Sports, and because of it, I decided to go into special education, or I decided to be a nurse that works specifically with special needs individuals. Or I've got football players that have gone on to the NFL and dedicated a lot of their time and energy now to special needs organizations because of the impact that RallyCap Sports had on them throughout their college career. So it's something we are excited to tap into more, because it was really a second thought, is these volunteers. That was just how we were helping the kids. But now you start to realize, you know, we kind of are building these fantastic student organizations with hundreds of students. I mean, we've got some chapters that have 200 plus active student volunteers per year. And, you know, here's a bunch of people that we didn't anticipate having such an impact on, but we are. And we want to tap into that and figure out what's going on and tap into that power, because there's a lot of impact going on, and we're excited about that as well. It's a big part of what we do.
Yeah, that is just so amazing when you consider the ripple effect.
Yeah.
And how, like your example of the football player who goes out and now is able to engage in, you know, some other way, but benefiting the community as a whole. I mean, that is just huge.
Yeah. In the most deep way you can look at it, we're trying to bring kids with special needs onto the same playing field with everybody else, and make them a part of the community, while we're also helping volunteers gain a better understanding and open their hearts to people with special needs. And we're hoping somewhere in that fight to do both of those, we're meeting in the middle somewhere of just a world where more people are accepted and loved and doing the things that they want to do and feeling a part of the community. And so we think if we can open some hearts and we can provide some opportunities, that can take place, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. When you think about internships, and I mean, if you think of the volunteer efforts of the college students as a form of internship, that's one that can help redefine the path of their life, and in some instances, that's the definition of a good internship,
Yeah.
But understanding, the responsibility maybe that we all have, or at least I believe should have, in doing our part to help, those that could benefit from it.
Right.
And so that's really huge, because it seems like the college age students are old enough to know what they like, and it's got to just make them feel good and know that they're doing the right thing. And there's so much distraction in all of our lives, but particularly young people. And, with all the content out there, to actually take a break from that and go do something where there's being selfless it's huge.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So right now in your programs, you're kind of having these 4 to 8 week sport seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just like any other recreational league you might have grown up with, we're trying to fit our sports program into the model of a college. So we're working with student schedules. They've got exams and Christmas break and all of this. And so we're normally, having a sports season like that. So basketball for 5 weeks or flag football for 6 weeks or something like that.
And they will essentially go, or have the opportunity to go from one sport to the next.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say nearly 100%, more than 90% participate throughout the year. Because this is where they found their identity. This is their team. This is their group, and it doesn't really matter what the sport is. And again, we're not competitive. We're really sports. It's just an opportunity to go do something fun.
Absolutely.
If cooking or doing something else was better, maybe we would do that. But sports is just, it's healthy. It's fun. We're moving. We're high fiving. We're smiling. We're getting self-confidence. We're making new friends. We're running a little bit and moving our bodies. It's just got so many good things to it.
Absolutely. So we talked about the impact on the volunteers just now. And I know you must have numerous stories of the impact on the children and their families. I was wondering if you could share one or two of those with us.
Yeah, sure. I remember all the way back to year one. We were about to start our first flag football program at BGSU. And I was really late at night. I remember it vibrantly because I was laying in bed and it was beyond midnight. And I get this email from this woman. And it was really simple. I don't want to quote it, but it was basically, Tommy is so excited for flag football to start tomorrow. He's never had the chance to play football, and he's always wanted to. And I remember it laying there thinking, this little boy has never had the chance to play football. That's just absurd. I mean, I can't even imagine my life with anything I wanted to do. My parents would make it happen. And that's a story of just opportunity. But we have story after story of kids that are losing weight, getting healthier, wanting to be more active at home. We find that people with special needs, because of not being included, often want to play video games and are less active. But once we get them involved in RallyCap sports, we find out that, when they go back home, they're wanting to go outside more and do more and play more. And so story after story from parents of kids' lives that have been changed, whether it be in the health department, the self-confidence, the social inclusion, the ability to talk to strangers and be more comfortable with people when they're out. I mean, we've got we've got stories. So
Yeah,
type of stories for
children
that.
sleeping better,
Oh,
eating better,
Everything.
life-changing for
Absolutely.
sure. It strikes me that as, we talk about entrepreneurism and social entrepreneurism, and, when I think about the entrepreneur's formula, it's kind of, is there a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a solution that maybe the result be a product or a service?
Right.
And the relentless pursuit of that, but ultimately, hopefully, profit, right?
Yeah.
And I see the real connection on the social entrepreneurial side of that, in which you have a problem or something that needs some attention.
Yeah.
And you create a service.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this relentless pursuit of that, as you have with RallyCap Sports, and expanding it. And the payoff is not profit, but I like to think of it as being social profit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's all very similar, So the opportunities that you run across in RallyCap Sports, and how you may expand geographically or through your services offered, is all a process of trying to figure a solution to either a problem or something that doesn't exist,
Mm-hmm.
which is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm just I just think it's fascinating that they're really that closely tied together, and I can see how you could easily transition from maybe a path of the traditional entrepreneur to the social entrepreneurial path that you took, and it just makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and it didn't make perfect sense to me. You go through college and all you're thinking is, I want to get a job, I want to make a lot of money. If I go into entrepreneurship, I want to build some business that I can sell at the end of the day and retire on, and maybe that's to donate, or maybe it's to have the lifestyle I want. So at that age, at that time, and that lack of maturity, it's hard to really grasp the big picture and to try to see that the profit I'm building here, not that I'm going to be missing out on the money, but the profit I'm building is the payback and the good feelings, the impact I'm having on people. And that's, as you get older, you realize that the things that matter, and or at least the things that matter to me. And so, I can feel good every night going to bed, not worrying about if I made a profit on something, but rather on the impact I had on so many lives. And so that's just it's a good way to live life, and I love it. So
Yeah. So I mean, you're clearly, truly changing lives in the work that you do, and it's just a fantastic thing to see. And the thought that crosses my mind just now hearing you speak is, as you're doing what you do in RallyCap Sports, sometimes what you uncover is a product that's needed, or a service that's needed, that then does truly become an entrepreneurial offshoot, So, if you keep your nose to the grindstone long enough, all sorts of good things happen.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to wrap up by asking you about what your vision for RallyCap Sports is for the future.
Yeah. So, our vision is growth and expansion, because ultimately, at the end of the day, Paul and I look at each other and we say, we want to impact more souls. We want to give more kids that don't have the opportunity to play sports, and so ultimately we want to grow to more chapters across the country. We're in 6 states now, and our goal is to double in size in the next 3 years. So we're at 18 chapters now, and we have a strategic plan that's going to take us there, and we have a great staff in place. We've built a great board that's led by Paul and Margot, and we have a very a very bright future ahead of us with chapters that are sustaining themselves and doing well, and we're building our fundraising well, and really creating these very impactful chapters that are starting to really build on universities and by themselves generate awareness at other universities who might want it. So very natural and organic growth that we believe will continue to ramp up and hopefully double in size in the next 3 years.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
I tell you, it must be just an incredible gift for you to have a mentor like Paul Hooker.
Absolutely.
He is just a phenomenal human being.
He is.
And just a true entrepreneur and a true social entrepreneur, and great in both aspects, and just one of the world's great people. And I just
absolutely,
I'm grateful to know him, and I'm glad for you, happy for you that you're able to work as closely as you are with him. And
I feel so blessed by that. I look around at my friends, I look around at what I valued in college and such, and just to have a mentor pour into my life at my junior year, it's been amazing just what I've learned from him about what his focuses are in life and what matters, and not only that, but all of what he's learned through his own entrepreneurial journey and the way of building a business. Take away all the good stuff, but he's teaching me how to be elite, to make really good decisions financially and all of these different things. So and just how much he's willing to be accessible to me and mentor me constantly is without question one of the best blessings in life so far, is to have somebody like that.
Yeah, and when you think of what his product was,
yeah,
it was luxury linens, it was high end, and I mean, he had to sell perfection, and you cannot. You have to be relentless.
That's absolutely right. He demands perfection.
Yeah. So, I know that shines through in his RallyCap Sports. Well, Luke, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
it's a true honor to talk to you, and I'm glad that we've become the friends that we have been, and I look forward to, continuing our project,
Absolutely.
working together. Daniel, did we talk about our project that we did this morning, delivering the bikes?
Well, maybe this morning, but not right now.
Say again? You did Paul, but not right now. Okay, so why don't we touch on that? So,
Sure.
So RallyCap Sports and the McClendon Family Foundation, which is my nonprofit that provides adaptive bikes to children with special needs, have been working together for 4 years now.
Yeah, 3 years. This is our third bike gift.
Third bike.
Yep.
I think it was. That's right. Yeah. So it was almost 4 years ago when you guys reached out to us, and we came up to New York, and we had a wonderful meal with you and Paul, my wife and I, and a niece and her boyfriend. And then we started doing this bike delivery here up in New Jersey, where you guys have funded 5 adaptive bikes for local children with special needs, and we worked together on that. So this is our third time flying up here and working together with you on that. And I got to tell you, today was phenomenal.
It was.
I mean, great. It was. I think it gets better every time we do it. I think it gets more emotional every time we do it. But what an amazing gift that you guys have made in providing the funding for those adaptive bikes for those families that we know change their lives,
Yeah.
And we were able to talk to enough of the parents afterwards to know what those really mean to them. So thank you so much for what you've done, what you continue to do, and best of luck in the future in your career in RallyCap Sports.
Thank you.
And I look forward to our next time.
We're so happy to be involved with the McClendon Family Foundation for our third year. And we hope to give many, many more bikes in the future. We were at a board meeting just a couple of nights ago, and we're talking about how we can expand this bike program and the vision for, could this become a bigger part of who we are? And does it match with our vision? And certainly it does, recreation for kids with special needs. And so, Andrew, I hope that in the future we're doing, many, many more bikes, and we're flying to many, many more places and seeing many, many more smiles.
Man, what a great way to spend a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So looking forward to it. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, take care. Luke told us a story of Nicole Bongiolotti. She was a young girl 30 years ago who had given Paul Hooker the inspiration to start Challenge Youth Sports. We're sad to learn that she has passed away in the last 5 to 6 weeks, and we wanted to express our condolences to her family, as well as to Paul and Margot Hooker and their family, and Luke's family as well. We know what an inspiration she was. She changed the life of Paul and now Luke, and was inspiration for them, helping hundreds and hundreds of children with special needs so far, as well as many more hundreds college students who are volunteering to help. So we wish the best of luck to RallyCap Sports and Luke Sims and Paul Hooker in expanding their program to universities across the country. Thank you for listening to the Next Entrepreneur podcast. We'd like to thank our title sponsor, Mainspring Companies. It can be reached online at mainspringcompanies.com. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach us at ask@nxtentrepreneur.com. You can subscribe to the Next Entrepreneur podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio. You can help support our podcasts by leaving a review on Apple Music. You can follow us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please share this episode with your family and friends. The Next Entrepreneur is produced by Propel Productions. They can be reached at propelyourstory.com. Today's episode was produced by Daniel Sagona.